My name is Amy Johnson, and I used to live with my husband Michael and our 5-year-old daughter. One day, I decided to break the routine and treat my mom to a fancy sushi restaurant, something we hadn't done in a while. It was a rare occasion since our daughter was having a sleepover at a friend's house. As we savored the luxurious sushi, a familiar voice caught my attention from the private room next door. "Nothing beats expensive sushi, right, Michael? You must be happy to eat something delicious for a change," the voice said. My heart sank as I recognized it. It was Michael's voice. My mom and I exchanged puzzled glances and peeked into the next private room. To my shock, there sat my mother-in-law and husband, ordering only the most expensive items and eating with their elbows on the table. "So, it is Michael and Mom," I whispered, disbelief coloring my tone. "And to speak ill of a daughter-in-law behind her back, that's just rude. They always throw snide remarks at me, even when I'm around, so it's nothing new," I added with a wry smile. Reflecting on our relationship, I recalled how Michael, 3 years my senior, had transitioned from a confident, protective man during our dating days to a mere puppet under his mother's influence after marriage. The pressure to become a full-time housewife came not just from Michael, but also from my domineering mother-in-law. She had pressured me to have children soon after marriage, and when I became pregnant and found out it was a girl, her disappointment was palpable. "A girl? What were you thinking?" "I wanted a male heir," she had exclaimed. Despite the initial joy at the pregnancy, her attitude soured quickly. "Girls are cute, but they're of no benefit to us. Make sure the next one is a boy," she instructed, dismissing the worth of our unborn child. Michael, too, echoed his mother's sentiments, disappointed that our child was a girl. "Girls just mean more expenses," he remarked callously. With each passing day, their disdain for me seemed to deepen. Michael, once my partner in love and life, now seemed more like an extension of his mother, joining her in attacking me at every turn. The birth of our daughter only exacerbated the situation, with Michael's allegiance to his mother growing stronger, leaving me feeling isolated and unsupported in my own home. And as I sat there in the sushi restaurant, overhearing their conversation, I couldn't help but wonder how we had reached this point in our relationship. The deterioration of our marriage became painfully evident as Michael gradually stopped coming home, leaving me to bear the weight of loneliness and abandonment. Our young daughter, innocently perceptive, sensed the tension, worried that I wasn't there for her. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law and husband persisted in their campaign of disparagement against me, their words mingling with the once enjoyable sounds of sushi being savored. The atmosphere in the restaurant grew increasingly suffocating as I listened to them gossiping and making plans, their voices dripping with malice and deceit. Their discussion took a darker turn as they delved into something more sinister, the impending arrival of a child, a son. "How's Kate? Is the baby developing well?" Michael inquired eagerly, his excitement palpable. "Everything seems fine. I can't wait to see my son's face," my mother-in-law responded, her tone betraying a cruel satisfaction. Their callous words struck me like a physical blow. "Unlike some failures, she got pregnant with a boy on her first try," Michael remarked callously, his disdain for me thinly veiled. The revelation of their infidelity and the impending birth of a child with his mistress shattered the last vestiges of my crumbling world. Tears welled up uncontrollably as I struggled to comprehend the depth of their betrayal. My mind went blank, unable to process the magnitude of the deception. Beside me, my mom gripped my hand tightly, her own anger simmering just beneath the surface. "They're unforgivable," she declared, her voice trembling with fury. "They're planning to take over our new home, aren't they? That's incredibly audacious. Our plans for a fresh start, building our own home where we could create new memories, now seemed tainted by their treachery." My father, who had generously provided the land for our house at a family discount, and the construction company he had arranged, were unwittingly entangled in their web of deceit. "It seemed that my husband and mother-in-law intended to live in that house with his mistress," I murmured, the bitterness of the realization tasting like ashes in my mouth. "Lucky us for getting the house cheaply, thanks to her father." Their conversation continued, oblivious to the devastation they had wrought, as they gleefully discussed their future together. But for me, their words were a cruel reminder of the shattered dreams and broken promises that lay in their wake. Unable to bear another moment in their company, we rose from our seats, leaving the restaurant behind, along with the bitter taste of betrayal. It was a revelation that my mom had recorded their conversation, perhaps as evidence, and her presence provided the solace I desperately needed. We didn't return home that day. Instead, we sought refuge at my parents' house. My mom enveloped me in her comforting embrace as I broke down in tears. "It must have been tough for you, Mom." "I'm sorry," I murmured between sobs, overwhelmed by guilt and sorrow. "Why are you apologizing, Amy? The ones at fault are Michael and his people who betrayed you, not you," my mom reassured me, her voice tinged with anger. "I can't forgive them for making my precious daughter suffer." "I'm sorry, Mom. I might not be able to continue with Michael," I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper. My mom's response was unexpected yet comforting. With a gentle smile, she stroked my head and said, "That's good. I was worried about what to do if you wanted to continue your married life with Michael. If things kept going as they are, Michael would likely initiate a divorce in a way that puts you at a disadvantage, maybe even demand alimony." The prospect of a divorce, of facing the legal battles and the emotional turmoil it would entail, weighed heavily on my mind. "But I didn't cheat," I protested weakly. "Now that you know you've been betrayed, you can take the initiative," my mom insisted, her confidence unwavering. "Don't worry, I'm here with you." My mom had always been a pillar of strength, assertive and dependable in times of crisis. I had admired her resilience since I was young, and now, her unwavering support bolstered my resolve. Determined to proceed with the divorce advantageously, I took matters into my own hands. I hired a detective agency to investigate my husband's infidelity, and I planted a voice recorder in his car to gather evidence myself. Every Saturday, like clockwork, he would leave the house under the pretense of hanging out with colleagues. But I knew the truth: he was meeting his mistress. It was incredibly easy to gather evidence, and as I listened to the recordings, I realized just how little respect he had for me. "Are you sure your wife isn't getting suspicious about us meeting every week on the same day?" his mistress questioned. "Don't worry about it. She believes everything I say. I can easily fool her about alimony and child support." "I don't want to give those women a single penny," Michael replied callously. His words cut deep, but they also fueled my determination. I refused to be manipulated or taken advantage of any longer. As the evidence mounted, I found the strength to confront him and end our marriage. And as I took those first steps toward a new beginning, I knew that I had my mom to thank for her unwavering support and guidance. The vivid sounds of intimacy in the car echoed in my ears, dispelling my sadness and igniting a fierce anger within me. They had not only betrayed me, but had also openly disrespected me. Yet, I refused to let them have their way. With the support of my parents, I continued to gather evidence, determined to confront my husband and mother-in-law about a divorce. Armed with irrefutable proof from the detective agency, I knew the time had come to take action. I called my husband and mother-in-law, informing them that I needed to discuss something important. Despite my parents' offer to accompany me, I chose to confront them alone. This was my battle, and I was resolved to fight it on my own terms. Their annoyance was palpable when they arrived, dismissing my request as an inconvenience. But I wasted no time in getting to the point. With a steady hand, I handed my husband the divorce papers, my resolve unwavering. Their initial shock quickly gave way to mockery and derision. "What's this all about? Why are you bringing up divorce?" my husband demanded, disbelief coloring his tone. "I can't continue with you anymore. Please divorce me," I stated firmly, my voice steady despite the storm raging within me. Their laughter cut through me like a knife, their condescending remarks stoking the fire of my determination. But I refused to be swayed by their cruel words. "I will be demanding alimony from Michael, and of course, child support as well," I declared, my voice unwavering. Their incredulity was palpable, their attempts to undermine me only fueling my resolve. "Why should I pay alimony? Don't you understand what alimony means?" my husband sneered. Of course, I know what alimony means. I'm not that ignorant, I retorted, my patience wearing thin. And I will not be intimidated by your attempts to belittle me. Their mocking laughter grated on my nerves, but I refused to let them see me falter. With a steely gaze, I met my husband's eyes, refusing to back down. I will not be manipulated or taken advantage of any longer. I will fight for what is rightfully mine, and I will not rest until justice is served. As their mocking laughter faded into stunned silence, I knew that my journey was far from over. But with each step forward, I grew stronger, fueled by the unwavering support of my parents and the fire of determination burning within me. The mention of Kate's name caught both my husband and mother-in-law off guard. It was clear they hadn't anticipated that I knew about the affair. Yet, they remained unyielding, refusing to admit fault. You admit to the affair? I questioned, my voice tinged with a mixture of anger and disbelief. Michael's response was callous, shifting blame onto me. Yeah, I admit it. But it's your fault you were cheated on, he retorted, his words laced with contempt. My mother-in-law joined in, her tone dripping with disdain. It's because you only gave birth to a girl. You didn't try hard enough for a second child. If you had just gotten pregnant with a healthy boy, Michael wouldn't have left you. It wasn't that I didn't try. I couldn't, I countered, my frustration bubbling to the surface. After our daughter was born, Michael didn't help with child care or housework at all. How could I even think about having another child under those circumstances, especially when it was my first time raising a child? But my words fell on deaf ears as my mother-in-law dismissed my concerns, clinging to outdated gender roles. Child care and housework are a woman's job. You're wrong to rely on a man like Michael, she insisted, her tone unwavering. As they continued to berate me, I felt a sense of incredulity wash over me. How had I endured such unreasonable people for so long? My husband's cruel words stung, each one a reminder of the betrayal I had suffered. You gave up being a woman after marriage. You stopped wearing makeup, and after giving birth, you quickly aged, he taunted, his words cutting deep. While I had indeed shifted my focus away from superficial appearances, I had made efforts to maintain basic grooming. But it seemed my husband had never noticed, his attention solely fixated on his young mistress. Refusing to be cowed, I made a bold request. Can you bring Kate here? I'd like to meet her, I declared, my voice firm despite the tremble in my hands. Their reaction was predictable, resistance and defensiveness. Meeting Kate will only hurt you more. You know why, my husband countered, his tone laced with thinly veiled contempt. But I remained resolute, unmoved by their attempts to dissuade me. I don't care about that. Just call her, please, I insisted, my voice devoid of emotion as I met my husband's gaze with steely determination. As my husband dialed Kate's number, a sense of anticipation and dread hung heavy in the air. With each passing moment, the tension in the room became palpable. When the call connected, my heart pounded in my chest as their conversation played out for all to hear. Hey, what's up? Are you coming over today? I need to apologize to Kate about something, my husband's voice echoed through the speaker, his words laced with a hint of nervousness. Kate's response was immediate, tinged with apprehension. What? What's going on? I'm scared, she admitted, her voice trembling. As their conversation unfolded, my anger simmered beneath the surface. Kate's naive trust in my husband only served to fuel my resentment. And when she confirmed that she would be coming over, I braced myself for the confrontation that lay ahead. True to her nature, Kate arrived dressed inappropriately, her attire a stark contrast to the gravity of the situation. Despite my presence, my husband and his mistress shamelessly flirted with each other, their actions a brazen display of disrespect. Kate is young and attractive, unlike someone else here. Even pregnant, she takes care of her appearance, my husband remarked, his words dripping with condescension. The comparison stung, but I refused to let their mockery affect me. Instead, I focused on the task at hand, resuming the conversation with steely resolve. I'm sure you're aware, but I'll be seeking alimony from both of you, I stated matter-of-factly, my voice unwavering despite the turmoil raging within me. Their response was predictable: denial and deflection. Alimony? You're still on about that? Did you think you could just come up with some excuse to avoid paying alimony? My husband sneered, his tone laced with contempt. But I refused to be intimidated by their attempts to undermine me. You do understand that if a married person commits adultery, they're obliged to pay alimony, right? I challenged, my gaze unwavering as I met their eyes with steely determination. In that moment, I realized the depth of my husband's betrayal and the extent of his manipulation. And as I stood there, facing him and his mistress, I knew that I had finally found the strength to break free from the chains that bound me to him. As they squirmed under the weight of the evidence I presented, my husband and his mistress scrambled to find an escape route. Sure, we're together, but do you have any physical evidence? My husband challenged, desperation evident in his voice. But I was prepared. With a sense of satisfaction, I laid out the investigation report from the detective agency, along with photos documenting their affair. The recordings from the car and the conversation my mother had captured at the sushi restaurant served as irrefutable proof of their infidelity. Their silence spoke volumes, their eyes widening in shock as the reality of their situation sank in. How about that? I can do this much, I declared, my voice tinged with triumph. My husband's attempts to deny the evidence fell flat, his composure crumbling under the weight of his betrayal. Even Kate, seemingly oblivious to the gravity of the situation, attempted to downplay the consequences. Even if we have to pay alimony, we have the new house, so it's no big deal, she remarked casually, her smug attitude grating on my nerves. But I refused to let her arrogance go unchallenged. You seem to be making plans for that house, but I won't let you have it, I interjected, my tone firm. That house was built under Amy's father's name. It won't belong to us. As the truth dawned on them, my husband's face paled, his panic palpable. What does that mean? He stammered, his voice trembling with fear. It means you both will only have the alimony to pay, and Michael, you will also pay child support for our daughter, I stated matter-of-factly, my resolve unyielding. In that moment, my husband's facade crumbled, his desperation laid bare. Please, I intend to pay the alimony, but can we keep it around $20,000 for both of us? Don't decide that on your own, he pleaded, his voice tinged with desperation. But I remained unmoved, steadfast in my resolve to seek justice. As they scrambled to salvage what little remained of their dignity, I knew that I had finally reclaimed my power. And as I stood there, facing them with unwavering resolve, I knew that I would emerge from this ordeal stronger than ever before. That there's a possibility it's not his. I couldn't believe the audacity of this woman, manipulating my husband's emotions and deceiving him with false promises of love and loyalty. As the truth unraveled before us, my husband's world shattered. The woman he thought he loved had been using him for his wealth and status, with no intention of ever truly committing to him. And to add insult to injury, the paternity of the child she carried was now called into question. In the midst of this chaos, I couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication. The facade of perfection that my husband and his mistress had carefully constructed had crumbled, revealing the ugliness lurking beneath the surface. But amidst the turmoil, there was a glimmer of hope. Despite the pain and betrayal, my daughter and I stood strong, united in our resolve to move forward. And as I looked into her innocent eyes, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. As for my husband and his mistress, their future remained uncertain. Their web of lies had finally caught up with them, leaving them to grapple with the consequences of their actions. But for me, the path forward was clear. With the support of my family and the strength of my convictions, I would reclaim my life and emerge from this ordeal stronger than ever before. His performance suffered. Eventually, he was demoted from his position, his once promising career now in ruins. The consequences of his actions had come full circle, leaving him to face the harsh reality of his choices. As for me, I focused on rebuilding my life and providing a stable future for my daughter. With the support of my family and the guidance of my lawyer, I navigated the legal proceedings with determination and strength. The divorce was finalized, and I received the lump sum in alimony that I had fought for. My ex-husband was obligated to pay child support for our daughter, ensuring that she would have the financial support she needed to thrive. As for his mistress, she faced the consequences of her actions as well. Scolded by her parents and forced to return home, she lived under their watchful eyes, her once carefree life now overshadowed by the responsibility of motherhood. Despite the challenges we faced, I found solace in knowing that my daughter was safe and provided for. And as I moved forward with my life, I vowed to never again allow myself to be deceived or manipulated by those who sought to betray me. In the end, the truth had prevailed, and justice had been served. And though the scars of betrayal may linger, I emerged from the ordeal stronger and more resilient than ever before. With my ex-husband's salary nearly reduced by about $1,800 due to alimony payments, his financial stability took a significant hit. The burden of his debts weighed heavily on him, and his once prosperous career spiraled into uncertainty. Despite his attempts to move forward, the repercussions of his actions continued to haunt him. Strangely, he blamed my mother-in-law for our divorce, severing ties with her in the process. This strained relationship further exacerbated his troubles, leaving him isolated and alone in his struggles. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law faced her own financial difficulties as the support from my ex-husband ceased. Forced to seek part-time work to supplement her pension, she found herself in a precarious position, grappling with the consequences of her actions. As for me, I found solace in the newly completed house, where I moved in with my parents and daughter. The warmth of their love enveloped us, offering a sense of security and stability amidst the chaos of the past. Living with my beloved family, I embraced a stress-free and happy life, free from the toxicity of my past marriage. With my daughter growing up in the nurturing embrace of her grandparents and me assisting my father in his business, I found fulfillment in the simple joys of everyday life. As I looked towards the future, I held on to the hope of continuing to enjoy peaceful and bright days surrounded by the love of